Hey, welcome to this tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to take a HTML form and save the information that's entered in the form into an SQL database. Now, in the previous video, I created two different forms. I created this multi-step form, and also I showed you how to create this regular HTML form. So if you don't already have a form, you're going to need to do that. So I suggest you go follow along with this video right here and create a HTML form, and then we're going to use that form to go through this tutorial. So this is the page. This is what the form looks like. Right. So now the first thing we need to do is we need to create a PHP file, and let's call this form.php. And I'm going to copy all this, Control A to select, and paste it all here. And so what we have is basically the same file, but it needs to have a PHP extension. So in the browser, I'm going to see where I have this. I'm going to change this to localhost, and then I'm going to change this to form.php. Alright, so we have our server, and you should already know how to use a server on your development environment. You should have your server start your SQL in Apache, and I'm using XAMPP. So as you can see, I started Apache, and I started MySQL to run my SQL codes. So what we're going to do is let's take a look at every field here, and we need to have a field name for each. So first name, last name, this is the field name. Let's create a file and let's call it process.php, and add the opening tag for PHP, no need for the closing tag. And then I'm going to, everything's good. So these are all the fields that we're going to save into our database. So let's count that: 3, 6, 9, 12, 13. So now let's do an if statement that says if request method or server request method, if server request method equals post, and you'll see the form method equals post. So it says if server request method equals post, and then I'm going to move all these. Now they're still in comments, and then I'm going to say else die. Say oops, looks like you are lost. And the reason that we do this is basically so that if somebody wants to go here and try to access this page, then they would get this message. The only way to run this script is if it's coming from the form on your website. So on the form, you're going to, where it says action, you're going to put process.php. So now we got to check which fields have data in them. And if there's data, then we add it to the database. So, alright, now there's an old way and a new way of doing things. I'm going to show you the old and most common way that you're going to see if you watch another YouTube video, and we're going to validate. So we'll just say if, or we're not even going to bother. We're going to do if shorthand. So it's set, and if it's set, then if name equals post, else if name equals null. And then to see that this is working, we're going to print if name. So I just entered first and last name, street address, and that's about all, and hit submit. And as you can see, the F name, and you could repeat this for every one of them. So where it says F name, you would add L name, and then concatenate this L name. Then I go back, and you see John Doe, or I could do space and John Doe, and you could do that for each one of them. Now there is a new and better way of, I don't know if it's new, but I know that we haven't been doing this. So as far as I know, this is new. Instead of typing this post, what you do is you create an array. So let's call this form entries. I'm just going to do form I. So instead of this right here, let's move this and say if it's set. So I don't need an else statement here. So I just put if is set, if name, then print. And let's go back. Alright, so this is what it should look like. I had two square brackets there, so I removed them. And as you can see, it's two different ways of doing the same thing, but this is shorter. So let's get rid of this and do it the new way. So what's different, of course, is by extracting this post array, then you don't have to create variables like this. This is how we used to do it. You don't have to create variables. Using this extract function, it automatically creates a variable based on the name. So I'm going to comment this out and go back and then hit submit, and you'll see it still works. Now what happens if I, let's choose a field that doesn't have, it'll still declare that variable. So there's no need to do this if is set or if not empty. Now you can do that if you want to, but it's not necessary. So to keep things simple, we're not going to do it. We're not going to include conditional statements that say if is empty or if not, because it's not necessary. It's just going to enter the data as null, as you will see it in a minute. So all we need to do now is go in here, remove all that. Then I'm going to do comma, space, and I'll put them all on one line. And don't forget this, put that back there, and we don't need this. So this here, these are all the fields we're going to enter into a database. So we need a database if we don't have one. So let's create an SQL file. You could call it whatever you want. And I'm going to say create table, and then above create table, paste that create form, and then we're going to say use, and then the name of the database, and then the table name, we're going to call it new user or new applicant. So create database, and that's the database name, use that database, then create a table named new applicant. In our process, we're going to connect to the database. So I'm going to create some variables here. A host is localhost. You can see right there. The user is root, and the password is empty because this is local development environment. And the DB is short for database, is this right here. Alright, so back over here, we're creating a table, and the fields that we want for this table are right here. So I'm copying this and pasting it here. And I'm going to comment this out. This is just a reference. So first field is fname. You can name it whatever you want. I'm just choosing to name it the same. I'm choosing to give it the same names as these variables, but you can name it absolutely anything you want. So name your field. So let's say this is fname, and then the data type varchar, and I'm gonna say 255 pixels. And last name is going to be the same, so I'm just going to copy that, place the L. All right, 2 down. Let's do the same for email. Alright, now for address line 1, we're going to do date. Well, in this form, we've got strings, we've got text. String is for if you're not using a lot of text, but if you're using address can really be a string, but we're going to leave it as text, but address can really be a string. City, string, varchar, string, date, time, and text. And there's one more, just about every table is going to, every row needs to have some form of unique ID. So we'll create a field called UID, and this is going to be an integer that is 5 characters long, or up to 5. And you want to say that this is the primary key, and you want to set it to auto increment. Okay, so now let us open our terminal right here. Now you could go to PHP My Admin here, but if you follow my tutorials, you'll see that I don't use that because it moves too slow for me. So I prefer to do it here. And you could, if you open this, well, actually I'm going to exit so I can show you. Well, there's 2 ways you could do this. You could copy and paste this. That's simple, right? Or you could change directories. So what I just did is this is the folder, right click, properties, and then I just copied the location. So now I'm in the, not quite, HTML form. Alright, so now I'm in this directory right here, and you could type source form.sql. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to. Alright, now let's type source. I had to go back in and type that again. Alright, I typed the wrong thing. Source form, the name of my file is form.sql. Alright, so all of that was processed in less than a second, whereas if I had went here to PHP My Admin, I would have been waiting forever. So this is the table that was created, and describe table, and you see all of these fields, and now your database is ready. I like to show you these are the field names, the data types, and now that we're all set, we can get the information into our database. So let's add a char set right here, UTF-8 MB4. Then we're going to create a variable that stores the host in the database. So first we're going to state our driver is MySQL equals, and it's right here. And if you do double quotes, you don't have to do periods. So MySQL equals host, DB name equals DB right here, and char set. char set equals char set. Then we're going to instantiate. Actually, let's move this into the if statement. So we're going to create a new PDO. I'm just going to call it PDO. The variable name I'm going to use is PDO. PDO equals new PDO. And if you look up here, it tells you the order DSN, which is going to be host DB, username, which is user, password is PWD, and we're going to put this in an if statement and that there. I'm actually going to move this up here. Alright, I just added a few notes to make it easy to read this, to scan it basically. So if you connect to the database, then let's try. Alright, now I'm going to cut this out of here and put it here. Alright, next, let's create a variable name statement equals. Now we're going to use our PDO object, and the method that we're going to use is prepare, and we're going to prepare this whole statement right here. And then after we prepare the statement, then we're going to execute the statement. So statement, execute. And this is an array that needs 15 values. And these 15 values needs to be the exact same order as they are right here. So since I pasted this from here, you can take all of this and literally move it here. Of course, you should double check to make sure that the order is correct. And I took a moment and everything is in the same order. Now there's one last thing that I like to do after. I like to include a success message. So we're going to make this border radius. How about just copy this? Border radius of 12 pixel and a background. I like to use like a yellowish color. Alright, and I want the font color to be reddish. I want to give it some padding and center and then make it 26 or we'll use EM 1.8 PM. Alright, so that we're going to, after entering, we need a session first. So at the top of this page, let's start a PHP session. Alright, so start a session, and then over here, let's create a session message. Alright, so here's my session message, and then I'm going to redirect. I'm going to redirect back to the form, and at the top, I'm going to say if is set session message, and remember this class name. Alright, I'm going to do it like this. Let's say echo, and this is what we're going to echo. I think I could just put this on one line. This right here, remove the, alright, so if it's set session message, then echo session message. And I'm copying this else statement. So now let's test the form to see that everything was entered right. Alright, so name John Doe. Alright, let's see. There's also something I like to do after I process a form. I like to do unset post. And that's basically because, like this, I don't want that to keep showing up. Hit submit again. Aha! Everything is good except we don't have a message. But let's check to see if our data was entered. So let's say select UID, FName, LName, Zodiac, sign, DOB from new applicant. Alright, so it went through, but our message isn't showing. So let's see what we did wrong there. Alright, the reason why it wasn't showing up is simply because you have to start the session on this page also. So start session here, which we already did, and then you need to add it up here too. And if it doesn't come out formatted, you're going to have to refresh the page like I did. So now let's go back here, hit the up arrow, and I've got John Doe and Jane Doe. Now that's all you need to know about entering, but there is something that you should do whenever you're doing this for a website, a live website, like something that's not personal. You need to sanitize the data before you send it through to prevent any kind of malicious injection. So to do that, you would take all of these, and up here, after you extract them, let's sanitize these variables. So depending on what type of data you are entering, that depends on what kind of sanitizing you're doing. So I would first, now this is redundant of course, but we're going to, so this is a string, so let's first trim off the space from, and then let's remove any special characters. Alright, so that should be good, and just to show you how this actually works, I'm going to quickly fill out another form. Alright, so I'm going to put some PHP here, say echo hello world, or, alright, then hit submit. Alright, now let's go here, Say select comment, and you see this right here. That is a special character. So if somebody were trying to inject code, because it converts that character to code, then it wouldn't work, basically. Alright, so now if you want to know how to have the information put into a file, specifically a JSON file, then I have created a tutorial on that, in kind of like this one, except instead of storing the data into a database, you're going to be writing it to a file. Could you please, just out of the kindness of your heart, hit like and subscribe? Thank you very much.